Welcome to hashtag 52 Needs. And this week we are talking about appreciation. And I'm so delighted to have with me Dr. Pauline Crawford, who's known as the ambassador of magical conversations and lead player for gender dynamics intelligence. Dr. Pauline is an international best-selling author, speaker, educator, and entrepreneur, chief vision officer of Corporate Heart International, a people, culture, and performance consultancy since 1999. With over 30 years delivering corporate engagement experiences in the UK, Asia Pacific, and USA, her passion and purpose is to enlighten and educate leaders individually and collectively to value and leverage their real synergy. That is, their true potential, bringing diverse individuals together. Dr. Pauline works with professional men and women in executive C-suites and boardroom roles, and with groups and communities to establish values-based performance at all levels of a business. Her approach produces healthy, high-performance cultures, people, and profit-delivering results. Full trifecta, wonderful. Hi, Pauline, wonderful to see you.
Oh, hi, Angela. It's wonderful to be here, all the way from Las Vegas, the USA, with my British accent.
Yes, we're doing the German in Australia, the Britain in the United States, and we're meeting somewhere over the ocean.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's wonderful to be here.
So let's talk about appreciation, and appreciation that can happen at any level, right? We can be appreciated for who we are, for what we do and what we achieve. Where do you think it's easiest to be appreciated?
That's a really, really good question, because I think from my point of view, it's easier to appreciate yourself, but I'm not sure that people do recognize that. I think people seek appreciation from other people in order to feel good. But what I've learned in my experience, my many, many decades, is that you really need to appreciate yourself and get to know the person in the mirror. And my experience way back in England as an image consultant was maybe part of that, because I'm not sure I really liked myself then. And I was seeking appreciation from other people more than understanding that I was stepping in my own way. And I was thinking I didn't want to be in my ego, so I would not do it. But actually, we can't appreciate other people unless we appreciate ourselves.
Yeah.
So I think it has to start within.
Absolutely. But do we appreciate ourselves for who we are, for what we do, or what we achieve? Because I know that it's really easy to appreciate yourself for what you achieve, because that's what we get the pats on the head for, but who we are, not necessarily. People generally give us feedback on, you're not that, or you are, because of the wonderful negativity bias of the brain, right? We focus on what we don't like or what doesn't work, but it's always about, we don't like who you are and we like what you have achieved.
I agree. And I think that's what needs to shift, and what has actually shifted in my life a lot, because of that traditional education model and even parenting model, which was, even I was very fortunate because my parents were very praising and appreciative of us, but there was still that caveat, you could do better. And therefore that came into that appreciating our achievement and then wanting to do it because you wanted to get that accolade. And I think that's really, in my own life, is shifting. And I would like it to shift for other people, because it's all external. It's that validation. I was very bad at languages and very good at maths. So I got accolades for maths, but I would get put down for being bad at French, for instance. And there was always
the opposite.
Yeah, that teacher would just say, "Oh, but your sister is so good at French. How come you aren't?" And you go, "Oh gosh." And I remember as I got into client work and helping people to appreciate themselves, there was this amazement that it could be for something that they didn't achieve. It could just be for their natural gifts. And that's really where I've focused on now, is everybody has natural gifts. And that for me, when I sort of got that sense of that, I don't know when it was, 20 years ago or whatever, it was like a real aha moment, because I thought, oh my God, I don't have to know everything.
Yeah.
And that appreciation of not knowing is actually understanding that within us, we have everything we need And I know some people won't see it that way, but I've learned that that is true. I can still find out more about myself as I continue to learn. But if I don't appreciate what I know within me, I can't set it out with everything else on the table that's out there with other people, with, certificates and, chalices or whatever it is. I've never been into awards. I think only ever got one accolade at school, which was, it was from maths. I didn't necessarily excel in all the sort of certificate type learning. But that true appreciation that life is precious. And I think that's where it comes from in our personal life, is that life is precious. And therefore, if you have something precious, you would appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. I always think a friend of mine is a funeral celebrant. And I've had a long thought about, because we talked about grief and, all of that. And the fact is, we often only appreciate people when they're dead. You go to funerals and they give all these amazing speeches about how wonderful this person was and, how much they appreciated them. But when you talk to them and saying, did you tell them that? No. So I like the idea of a living funeral where you actually say, like, I'm gonna, I'm about to go, and I'd like to hear what you have to say about me.
Yes, I think that's an excellent idea. And I remember an actual happening of that, a lady that I knew not very well, but she had cancer, then she got recovered, and then it came back, and she called me and she said, oh, I'm having this gathering. I want to give everybody that I know something. So we all gathered at her apartment, and she just said, I'm not going to take anything with me. So any ornament or anything like that you'd like. And it was exactly that. She was gifting us and we were gifting her with our feelings about it. And it was just amazing.
Yeah.
I should like to do that.
Yeah, I actually had a client once, and her mother was dying, and their relationship was not, it wasn't great, but it wasn't bad either. But she just said, oh, I don't really know how to deal with this. And again, there's so many things I would like to say. And I said, well, how about you write a letter? Yes. And then you read it to her. Yes. While she's there. And she said it just healed the relationship in such a way that you would have never expected. So when the mother passed away, they were at ease. They were in a really good space together, because it was the appreciation that had healed it.
That's right. And in fact, we can even do that when somebody has passed. In retrospect, is to write a letter and read it to the universe. Yeah. Because it's about expressing our own appreciation. Absolutely. And I think one of the things I learned in my life is that I was very fortunate, I'd say, to be in that environment, which was very happy and very, very collective. The family we all went on holidays together, so till I was 18, I was cosseted. Doesn't mean it was always straightforward, but sometimes you still feel alone in the middle of that because you don't express yourself. And later on in my life, when in fact I divorced my first husband, I recognized that my kids were grown-up teenagers, but I didn't often say, I love you. And I literally, because I loved them, but I hadn't said it. And I thought, I consciously decided to end every conversation with my daughter and my son with, love you, love you. And my daughter picked it up very quickly and would say, oh, love you, Mum. My son didn't quite so quickly, but after a decade or so, I suddenly heard him say once to me, oh, love you, Mum. And I thought that was so nice, because unless we say things and we make them specific, I mean, obviously love you is a very general, but I think appreciation has to be specific and genuine to somebody's personal qualities. And that gets us away from what we were talking earlier, where people say negative things. Oh, I wish you'd rather done that. Well, that's not appreciating what I have done. We might have a conversation of what other things we might do, but when you look at the uniqueness of human beings, and this is why I talk to people about your natural gift. We were all born with a natural gift, which is nothing to do with schooling, nothing to do with the parenting. It's in us. And usually we get it knocked out of us by schooling or parents or whatever. And I think we can rekindle so much appreciation in the world by starting with that natural gift.
And added to that, I totally agree, is appreciating more specifically, for qualities. Like I remember, like when parents go, good boy, good girl, it's like, I always cringe and go, and I don't have children, but it's like, it means nothing, because the child is going, so how specifically was I being good? This is just so big.
Yes.
But I had,
that's right. And so knowing our own natural gifts, but also sensing somebody else's natural gifts. Because one of the things I find is people say to me, oh, I don't know what my natural gift is. And I say, well, it's the thing that you do so naturally, you don't compliment yourself about it, but somebody else will say, oh, you do that so well. And you go, oh, no, that's nothing. Yeah. Actually, that's your natural gift. So if we practice that, and I often talk to parents, I say, well, are all your children the same characters? No. And not just because they're boys and girls, but two boys will be different characters. So what could you appreciate about the individual that you, like you say, you put it into the appreciation? I really like it when you make that beautiful dessert, because it's so tasty and it's done with loving care. So you're complimenting the activity, but you're also complimenting them in a personal way without being over intimate when it's not appropriate.
There's a book called the Family Virtues Guide by Linda Kavelin Popoff, and it's a workbook, 52 virtues in a workbook. And what she does is she invites people to sit down with, or parents sit down with children and identify virtues, which are values that are often around other people. So like, for example, patience. And it's about, so how do you know that how does the child know that it's being patient? So you put time frames on it, like your and age appropriate behaviors, and that gets reinforced during the week. And I read this book many, many years ago, and it's really changed the way I look at things. And on Monday, I had a Pilates class, and one of the mothers brought in her little son because she couldn't, the babysitter had fallen through, and there was no place for him to sit really. And so I organized for him to have a box to sit on, and he sat there and he played on his thing, and he was very patient the whole time. So afterwards, I went to him and I said, I just want to acknowledge you for your patience, the way you patiently watched your mother, jump on the board and doing all her exercises while you played on your toy on your screen. Yeah. That was really lovely, and I really appreciate that. And his mother went like, oh, that's so nice of you. And the little boy beamed. That didn't cost me anything. But I realized that's what I like doing, Yeah.
And that's exactly what is almost like, if we could only teach that in schools. And I don't know whether teachers would say, oh, but I've got 30 children in the class, I can't do that. But you can do it. It's like taking it outside of human behavior, because I think we've neglected teaching human conscious behavior in schooling, and take it into nature, and saying to kids, well, do you appreciate that tree is different to that tree? What's different about it? Oh, well, that one's taller, and that one's got more leaves, or that one's greener. But we don't actually do that with our kids, it's actually sitting them down and say, what do you appreciate about Tom and Mary and Jimmy? And getting them to use descriptive words. And just to say, I in my work, I ask people, I say, what are the 3 words that describe you? And there's a limited number of words that kind of come up. It's quite fascinating, friendly, quiet, abnormal, I don't know, but and then I say, right, go and ask your best friends how they describe you. Now, don't ask your worst friends. That's not perfect. You ask your best friends, and you just listen. So what the 3 words they give you, just write them down and think about them, and keep on doing this, sort of build a map of all the words that people describe you. And we don't often do that. Yeah. But it helps us to layer in the beauty of the tree that we are, that, oh, It's like my husband said to me yesterday, he said, no, you look so, what's the word? And he said, eloquent and sophisticated. And I thought, oh, I like those words. Words
Yeah,
create an energy.
absolutely.
So, saying I love you, that's great, all those things, but actually giving us a descriptive, you're so good at doing that because you're energetic and you make me feel excited. There's a two-way compliment going there. So I would say, we complement each other, we complement each other, but we often don't compliment each other because are we embarrassed? I don't know what it is, but I love compliments.
Yeah, well, the thing is, it's a win-win situation because, when I express my appreciation for someone and they feel appreciated, then, we both get to feel good.
Well, that's right. And it's an energy source. I mean, if everything in our world is energy, when we do the negative one, we're contracting energy. And that's why that sort of traditional, don't do that in class because that's not done. It's like, oh, and I remember, when I was in England saying, we're ticked off, that's an English statement, not a US statement, but when I was told off or whatever it was, I would feel really awful. And I think, oh my God, because I was quite sort of an obedient child, so I didn't like to be naughty. But there's ways of saying it. So maybe it's about teaching teachers or parents or human beings to be nice. I mean, it's a very nice word, but why can't we do that automatically?
Well, okay. My theory is we always want to help people be the best that they can be. And because the focus is on fixing problems, on looking towards things that don't work rather than on focusing on what works already and strengthening that, which is the whole school system is built on that, right?
Well,
you didn't get an A, you only got a B plus. I mean, I remember coming home from a really, really stressful exam, and I was so nervous. I was sure I was going to blow it completely. And I came home and my father said to me, so what did you get? And I said an A minus. He went, okay. Anyway, my father called me back up again and said, how come it wasn't a straight A? And who had a straight A?
Yeah.
And I was like, and I remember standing in front of him and saying, Dad, this was one of the toughest exams I've ever done. This was high school graduation.
Yes.
If you can't really appreciate that I've done my best, I'm sorry. That didn't go down very well.
Yes.
But I think we need to teach people how we want to be appreciated too.
Oh, I agree. And I mean, people would like to be appreciated in different ways. This is what I study when studying different types of men and women, but different generations, different generations have different ways of appreciating each other. So with the interacting with another generation, which doesn't understand their language, this is about a cultural divide.
Yeah.
We tend to think of cultural divides as country, but there's a cultural divide between men and women, between young, middle, and older. There's a cultural difference between different religions. It's all about being sensitive. I always say to people, whose body did you walk around in today? Like, it's your body. And that's what you're saying is, get the confidence without being in your ego to ask what you want to be appreciated for, but also make a definite, consistent effort to appreciate other people. Yeah. Even if they're not doing things the way you would want them done, they do them in the way that is theirs. And I think that it's the simple things, the small things that make the difference. We're very concerned about big issues at the moment in the world, but it's the small things that make the difference. It's that touch, it's that look, that, hey, you did that well. I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
If you're stuck for words because you don't know how to do, then just use the word appreciation. It's like learn the language that you want to get back. Reduce all the negatives and just try it. Because what will happen is, like you said, when you do it and you get this circle, it's fabulous. It's energy.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, for me, appreciation and gratitude go hand in hand.
Yes.
They're like very, very close, you know, siblings, almost said. Yeah. So they are, and then because there's also attention, you know, like how you focus your attention on. Again, for me, you can either focus on what works or you can focus on what doesn't work. And appreciation focuses you on what works, and there's kindness attached to it and interest.
Yes.
Not the, I mean, I think it's this whole throwaway line or good job or well done, you know, that means absolutely nothing. But when you really say specifically, this is what I appreciate.
Yes.
Totally different story.
I think the other thing I want to point out is because, you know, appreciating yourself is a journey. And, you know, if we're brought up in a place where, oh, you shouldn't say that or you shouldn't that, then it's a longer journey. But it's also this circular thing. It's a ripple effect. It's appreciation and something coming back. And that's adding value all the time. And as we increase that value, we spread it out into the world. And we don't know how we're impacting people. So you might appreciate somebody in the supermarket. You know, you're going through the checkout and actually, you know, you note the name on their badge and you say, oh, Tom, that was really good. Thank you so much for helping. And you say to the the guy filling the bag, and you don't know how much that's going to help them in whatever they do.
Exactly.
And it's a habit. So it's creating a positive habit in your own life.
Yeah.
I've been accused in my life of being horribly positive, but I won't, I will take it as an appreciation.
I do too. Yeah. But look, the reason, I mean, my father was a very, and I'm using the word very deliberately in air quotes, typical German, you know, like he was a perfectionist, everything had to be just so. And what he was doing, he thought was the best for me. This was his way of holding me up to my highest potential. And my thing is, as you said, let's just appreciate people for who they are, for their natural abilities, for their natural strengths, for, you know, for being good enough, for not having to prove all the time.
Yes.
You know?
And the other thing is be interested in other people as well as being interested in yourself. So you can't be interested in other people as a one-way street. Yeah. You have to have something of interest. So I used to do these exercises with my my clients about pick a subject, pick a common subject, holidays, travel, cookery, you know, something everybody knows about. And you set people together and you say, actually share what your experience is of that. And I guarantee that in 20 minutes, you'll find something that connects you. Because even if you do like cookery or don't like cookery, you'll find something to share about that scenario. And then you'll find all sorts of things connect you. and people always came back after the exercise and said, oh, you wouldn't believe it. She and I were at school together. Or, you know, I mean, it can be even that. It's like, once you start talking, you will find connectivity. And once you get connectivity, the appreciation has to be in there. So it's all about this rhythm of life. Being interesting, being interested, being kind, to be kind, understand what the other person does best and say, well, you know, I think you seem to be very interested in trains. I don't know a lot about trains, but my dad had a train set. You know, there's always something you can think of if you want to make that appreciation connection. Absolutely.
Oh, look, I feel that we've just scratched the surface of what appreciation really means. There's so many different aspects to it. And I'm sure we're going to have another conversation about that in one of the magical conversations with you. And I really look forward to those. So for now, I thank you so much, Pauline. And thanks everybody for watching. And we'll see you next week.